Hello everyone and welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Tonight's story carries the weight of truth and the sting of memory, a tale cut from real feeling rather than glossy headlines. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed and tap that like button. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for being here. Now let's step into the quiet of that night. Istanbul was hushed, the soft orange of the street lamps spilling across empty pavements. But inside the studio where Elçin Sangu had agreed to sit down for her first interview in weeks, the air felt heavy with unspoken words. Her eyes were rimmed crimson, the kind of tired that isn't solved by sleep, and a delicate tremor traced her voice. Known for her fire on screen and quick wit off it, she finally began to speak about the breakup with Barış Arduç. What was supposed to be a neat conversation about a new project became something raw and unguarded, the kind of confession that doesn't check the clock. It started innocently. The interviewer asked about scripts and schedules, where she was finding inspiration lately. But somewhere between the question and the answer, Elçin stopped pretending there was a wall between art and life. "I can't seem to forget him," she said softly, almost apologetic, as if admitting to a stubborn fever. "I try to move forward. I try to fill my days with work, with friends, with ordinary routines. But everywhere I go, every song in a taxi, every familiar corner of the city pulls him back into focus." The studio reduced itself to the light on her face and the hum of the cameras. It was not performance. It was the ache of someone who had tried silence and discovered it only amplifies the echo. For months she had refused to answer questions, dodging speculation the way you dodge rain by ducking under a doorway. That night, she stopped hiding. "People think strong women don't hurt," she said, dabbing the corner of her eye with the edge of her sleeve. "But that's not true. I break too. I just tend to do it quietly." The admission landed with a simple, seismic thud. No dramatics. No blame. Just a woman saying out loud that holding everything together doesn't mean the pieces never fall. Her candor stunned the interviewer. You could feel the room tilt as Elçin described the tug-of-war between her mind and her chest, a daily game of rope pulled until the palms burn. "I remind myself I did the right thing," she murmured, voice threading the line between steady and shaken. "Sometimes leaving is the kindest decision you can make for both of you. But there are nights when I still wait for his voice, like it might arrive with the next message tone. I don't know if time heals or just teaches you how to hide the bruise under longer sleeves." She wasn't reciting a thesis on love. She was offering the fragments of it. Within hours, the clip burst across the internet as if thick clouds had cracked. It swept through timelines and message threads. It was saved, forwarded, replayed. By midnight, the short video of Elçin's quiet tears and careful words became one of the most shared moments of the night. Fans filled comment sections with soft encouragement, reminding her she wasn't alone, reminding each other that heartbreak says nothing about the strength of your spine. They wrote about how her poise hid thunderstorms, how even grace bleeds. People close to her say the ache has been deep, honest, and stubborn. "She really loved him," a friend confided, in that protective tone people use when they're speaking about a precious thing that cracked. "They tried to hold the shape of it together. They tried to make sense of schedules, expectations, the relentless public mirror. But at some point it slipped beyond their control." And yet, when the conversation turned toward Barış, Elçin's words carried no heat, only a kind of reverence. "I don't want to speak ill of him," she told the camera. "He was a very important part of my life. Even if we're not together, I'll always wish him well." In a world that loves a spectacle, her restraint felt like a rebellion. She did not cast blame or roll her sadness into accusations. Instead she spoke with a mixture of tenderness and clarity, nostalgia wrapping around each sentence like a scarf against a draft. "Some stories don't end," she said, pressing a palm to her chest. "They just change form. He may not be beside me anymore, but he hasn't left this place." The words seemed to muffle the studio, even the lights felt gentler as she stared at her hands and let the truth sit between syllables. As for Barış Arduç, sources insist he has been equally shaken. He's kept a careful distance from public events, letting the towns and sets spin without him for a while, and those who know his quiet rhythms say he still pays attention to the spaces Elçin appears in. Silence doesn't mean he doesn't care, one insider said, shrugging at the assumption that absence equals apathy. Of Elçin's choices, the same voice added, she doesn't want to complicate things for him. Sometimes the more loving thing is to say nothing and let the wound knit in the dark. Meanwhile, work continues. Elçin has gone back to set, tucked herself into rehearsals, into makeup chairs that smell of powder and coffee, into scenes that ask her to be someone else for a few hours. The fans who linger outside stages and scroll through new photos can see something different in her. Her smile sits softer on her face, and her gaze holds a trace of dusk, both ache and acceptance braided together. Maybe loving someone, she said during the interview, eyes fixed on a place beyond the lens, is about learning to release them while the feeling is still alive. The sentence floated over the crew like a hush. Everyone looked down for a second, as if confronted by a mirror they weren't ready to meet. When the conversation neared its end, she wiped her cheeks and let a small, weary laugh slip through. Maybe one day we'll be able to look at each other without hurting, she said. For now, I'm grateful for what we had. That line, so unadorned, pulled the whole night into focus. It felt like one of the purest moments of her career, not scripted, not staged, not smoothed by PR. A human being faced the camera and told the truth, proving that even stars fracture, even stars love, even stars knit themselves back together with small, steady stitches. The internet did what it does with real moments, it carried them. Images of Elçin crying softly while saying Barış's name traveled through Instagram stories, looped on TikTok, replayed on YouTube. People praised her courage to let vulnerability breathe without turning it into theater. One journalist wrote, she didn't mistake being emotional for being weak. In an age of varnish and filters, she chose honesty. The note captured the public mood, relief at being shown something unpolished, a kind of collective exhale. Even in the silences, there was meaning. During the interview, there were pauses that spoke like paragraphs. Each time she said Barış's name, her expression gentled as if she were stepping through a doorway back into a warm room. I can't tell you the exact moment when it broke, she whispered. But I know I tried my best. When love is real, you don't regret the effort, even if it costs you. It wasn't a defense. It was a ledger of attempts and a refusal to tarnish what had once been beautiful. The ghosts followed her at work, too. She admitted that sometimes a song would come on, a melody he once sent in a midnight message, a tune they'd hummed in a car between scenes, and she would have to excuse herself, step into a hallway, and breathe until the floor stopped tilting. It's like his presence lingers in small corners, she said. Not haunting, just there. Those confessions struck the hearts of countless strangers who had loved deeply and lost. The comment sections filled with personal stories, proof that her words were not just entertainment but a mirror. When someone asked, delicately, if she still loved him, she didn't dodge. She drew breath, let the truth settle, and whispered, I won't pretend. Yes, I still love him. But I'm not expecting anything. Some loves don't have a future on paper, and still they refuse to fade. The audience in the studio responded with careful applause, the kind that doesn't want to break the spell. A few eyes glassed over, and across the internet people remarked on her refusal to turn sorrow into spectacle. The bravery was in how softly she carried it. Soon the whispers began, that Barış had watched the interview late that night, that his circle told him to reach out, that he drafted a message and finally pressed send. A close friend confided what many had already guessed. He wrote to her, the friend said. But Elçin didn't respond. It's not the right time. Sometimes you need distance to understand what love asks of you. That single line said more about her strength than any defiant speech could. It takes a special kind of resolve to hold still when your heart wants to run. In the end, her confession stood as a reminder that heartbreak isn't a synonym for weakness, it's a sign you risked something true. She showed that vulnerability can be an act of bravery, that tears don't indict you, that love can evolve from a shared life into a quiet, enduring tenderness that lives without demanding. Maybe their story has shifted shape, but it hasn't evaporated. It hums underneath their days, a gentle frequency you can't always hear but can feel when the room goes still. Thank you for staying with us until the last words. If this story moved you, please subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, hit like, and share it with someone who might need a little company tonight. We'll be back soon with another chapter from the hearts behind the headlines. Until then, take care of yourselves and good night.